I want to bring in two Hollywood insiders, Emmy award-winning comedian and the host of the podcast Inside Out, Paul Mecurio. He once interviewed Rob and his son, Nick. Also here, Hollywood publicist and author of It Started With a Whisper, Rob Shooter. I'm so glad both of you guys are here. I want to begin with you, Rob, because the tributes, I mean, they are pouring in. So many people remembering Rob Reiner and, of course, his wife, Michelle. How is Hollywood remembering this incredible director tonight?
Yeah, first of all, Hollywood is absolutely shocked. I spoke to my insiders, my sources today, and they still can't believe that this has actually happened. To lose somebody this great, to lose somebody this prolific, to lose somebody this beloved is an absolute tragedy. And then the method in which we lost him and his wife is something that people can't really get their head around. So at the moment, I don't think we're seeing so much outpouring of grief. That will come. It will definitely come. But today, all the calls, everybody that I spoke to, were just in shock. It's hard to get your mind around what might have happened. And we don't know the details yet, so I'm being a little bit careful.
Yeah.
But at the moment, people are stunned.
You know, you almost don't want to fill in the gap, do you, Paul, when you think about what might have happened for the death of these two beloved figures. But you actually, Paul, you interviewed Rob Reiner and his son while they were promoting their movie Being Charlie. That was back in, what, 2016? I want to play for the audience part of that interview. Listen.
Well, I think I'm lucky in the sense that I have parents that care about me. And because of that, when I would go out and do things like drugs and stuff like that, I'd feel a tremendous amount of guilt because I'd think, oh, they're thinking about me right now. They want me to do good.
You know, he has the double whammy. He's got me and he got his grandfather, and they're going to say whatever the heck they want, but they don't know. They don't know what he's experienced. They don't know what he's gone through. They don't know why he's done what he does.
Paul, I mean, when you heard about what happened, where did your mind go? What were you thinking?
I've been all over the place today with this. I mean, the hardcore tragedy of this, losing Rob. We lost a great artist, and you know, there's a reference to him being prolific in 4 areas: actor, writer, director, producer. At the highest level, everything was A quality. I don't know anybody else in Hollywood that can say that. But more importantly, we lost a human being with compassion, who we need more than ever now, given how divisive things are in the country. He was a man for the downtrodden. He could have stayed in his mansion and counted his millions. He put himself on the front line. And then when I sat in that room, I saw a love story. These are 2 people that couldn't have been more proud of each other, couldn't have loved each other more, had both battled with this addiction. They came through the other side better for it. They talked about, another part of the interview, how they learned a lot about each other in making the film. Like Nick at one point said, you know, I learned a lot by going on set with you. And Rob said, what do you mean? You were always on set with me. He goes, well, I was on as like a kid watching you, but working with you on set, I have a whole new respect for what you do. And what I found was a happiness in making the film. It was cathartic, but also the film would help others who are going through or were going through what they went through. And so if it's true what they say about Nick allegedly doing it, it just puts a whole other layer on this for me. But I saw 2 people that could have not been more in love and supportive of each other, who made art that bettered them and art that would better other people.
I want to play a clip from that movie. Everyone's been talking about it. I myself immediately tried to watch it when I heard about the possibilities of him being responsible for his father's death and his mother's. Watch.
Dad, I'm not going to listen to you tell me what a drug addict I am.
Tough, damn.
Careful, I'm one of your constituents now. You wouldn't want to lose the governor's race by 1 vote.
You can either head back to treatment or live on the streets. It's your choice.
Talk to me about the dynamic, because part of that movie, and one of the things that Rob Reiner talked about, was that he felt he owed his son an apology of sorts for being unsympathetic at times to his addiction, and his wife and him discussing how they trusted those with degrees on the walls as opposed to what their son was telling them about what was working or not working. Did that dynamic come up about the addiction and the rehab?
It did, and they spoke to that. And I just am so blown away by the honesty. They didn't have to make this film, right? Like, this is not a blockbuster film. It's courageous. This is an addiction that just didn't affect Nick. It affected the entire family. And what I saw, I'm a father, I have a son. There can be a dynamic with a parent and a child where you're always the superior, right? And that inherently, that child has to play the inferior role. I didn't see that. I saw two equals, treating each other with respect. Both had, you could feel in your bones that it was two people that had come to terms with things they did wrong. They hugged each other and they were moving on, and they were better for it.
Rob, the description that Paul gives is a heartbreaking split screen to what the investigation is unfolding before our very eyes. And I know that tomorrow more information will undoubtedly come. But tonight, everyone is thinking about that prolific career that you described, Rob. I mean, his career back decades, from Meathead, obviously, all the way through A Few Good Men and Misery, When Harry Met Sally. I mean, that list really does go on. And in those 4 areas that Paul described, how did his style of filmmaking influence Hollywood today? I mean, I know there was the sort of mockumentary of things of Spinal Tap, but tell me how his style influenced what we see this very day.
What he did is that he proved to everybody that being honest and being kind and being emotional was really cool. There was a moment in Hollywood where emotions were looked down upon. They were thought of too sentimental, too sappy, too emotional. And that is something that Paul proved. You could be a good guy and a winner too. Originally, the ending of When Harry Met Sally, he was not going to end up with the girl, but he fell in love during that movie with his wife, Michelle, and changed the ending. So we had a happy ending. And I think that tells you a lot about not only this man's work, but who he was as a human being. Everybody always asks me, when I meet a celebrity, when I know somebody, what are they really like? I spoke to an insider today and they said, if you want to know who this man really is, just watch his films. Watch his films. That's who he is.
And that's a great point, because a true artist finds a way to have his work reflect who he is as a person. And when I think of Rob's work, what saddened me when I said earlier we lost a human being is compassion, hits on the human condition, is done in a passionate way. But he uses comedy as a vehicle through which to do that. And all of that bleeds through. Yeah, there's the farcical stuff like Spinal Tap, and that's great. But when you really look at his body of work, from drama to comedy, there's a common thread of humanity. He was a mensch. And that menschiness came through in his work.
Yeah, you know, they tell you life can create a cynic, but his movies proved it actually created an optimist in the end. And I love his films. When Harry Met Sally, Harry Burns, Sally Albright, one of my personal favorites of all times. What a loss. Thank you both. Paul Mecurio, Rob Shooter, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.